right, ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you back to the Malzberg panel. And once again, we're joined by former Navy SEAL and FBI agent and President of United States Continued Service, Jonathan T. Gilliam, and Senior Fellow at the Center for Security Policy and former CIA and DIA official, Fred Fleitz. Gentlemen, welcome. All right, the terrorist responsible for the shooting of the magazine, and also the terrorist, one of them responsible for the invasion and killing of 4 hostages at the kosher bakery, are dead. Fred, shocking stuff today.
It really is shocking, and there's a lot that we have to talk about. Can I first say that I was outraged when that Islamist asked if you were Jewish yesterday on the air? Thought you handled that very well.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
There's really a lot to talk about on what happened in France. These were not homegrown terrorists. These were professionally trained attackers using military-grade weapons. And the purpose of al-Qaeda right now is not to blow up aircraft. It's to stage attacks like this that paralyzes a country. This small group of people engaged in terrorist activities that has captivated the world. That's what al-Qaeda is up to. And that's why I'm so disturbed at this whole affair.
Yeah, and of course, Jonathan, we know there were reports that the police taped a conversation with one of the brothers, and among other things, he told him that he went to Yemen in 2011, and Anwar al-Awlaki paid for the trip, and blah, blah, blah. I mean, they wanted to really stress that they were part of this broader, organized picture.
When are we going to start considering this a war? That's what I can't understand. And, I just watched the president come in, and he's in Knoxville, Tennessee, and in the intro he's telling jokes, I guess, like you were talking before we went on about, like he did at Fort Hood. I mean, how can you be a commander-in-chief and not have the presence to come in and face how severe this is? He didn't even call it a terrorist incident. So I can't understand when you have databases and when you have interviews of people that are known to be traveling over, why these countries aren't realizing that this is a war and these people need to be held as prisoners of war once they show that they're committed to this fight. It makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, Fred, things have to change. I mean, I don't know to what extent, but how on earth was the one brother who did what he did and was in jail for what he did, how was he ever on the streets?
Well, there's a real problem in France. There are so many of these Islamist suspects. The government can't follow all of them. There's thousands of them, and some of them are in so-called no-go zones. There's, I hear, several hundred of these no-go zones in the country of France where
which means, I don't want to interrupt, which means police don't go into there. Is that it?
Police can't go in there. There's no mail service. There's even Sharia courts running these areas. So, I mean, this.
Well, then it's a country. Then it's a country within a country. I mean, it's a country within a country. Is that where Western Europe is headed on the whole, Fred?
It looks like that European governments have been far too tolerant of these various groups that do not want to assimilate, do not want to be part of their society.
Yeah, I mean, Jonathan, I mean, is that where we're all headed? We're going to have, France overrun by zones where you can't enforce the law, and they're going to hatch terrorist plots. Is that where we're headed here under this current climate in this country with this president?
Well, I mean, if you start at the city level like de Blasio and you move up to the president, you see that the minds are very similar, the thought process is very similar. And, I hate to say this, you can't even write the script for what we're saying these days. The mayor of New York is a communist, and the president of Russia is actually getting this correct. I mean, he's literally realized that they're fighting a war, so when it comes to Chechens, he goes in and dominates because he doesn't look at it as a law enforcement issue. He looks at it as a war. You couldn't have scripted that back in the 80s, but that's the fact of the way it is.
Yeah, I mean, Fred, I just don't even know where we're headed. I mean, when you have a totally detached president of the United States who said, he mentioned the word terrorism today, but in passing, we just have to hold our breath until he's out in 2 years, and then get serious about this, because he'll never allow it.
took several years for this president even to admit that acts like this were terrorism, not simply an act of violence. It's a real problem. If we don't admit what the threat is, we can't defeat that threat. We can't defend our country against that threat.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to come back, folks. We're going to have a lot more with Fred Fleitz and Jonathan Gilliam. Again, the news is that the two terrorists who shot up the magazine, the satirical magazine 2 days ago in Paris, are dead, as is a terrorist affiliated with them who killed a police officer, they believe, that same day, and today took over a kosher bakery and wound up killing 4 hostages. A presumed accomplice of his, though, is still on the loose. We'll be back with more. Don't go away.